I don't understand why people are struggling with this character so much. Sure, you can't use weapons like with the Doctor, but your special ability is just as, if not more powerful in my opinion. How hard can it be? Okay, I might have my work cut out for me this time. I'm Ian, and this is the Streets of Rogue Character Guide to the Alien.
We here at Area 51 decided to make a few simple rules to keep you safe.
The first and most important and only rule is don't raid Area 51.
We will shoot you.
This is a military base, we have lots of guns, and we will shoot you with all of them.
Every single one.
The Alien is acquired from the Character Pack DLC, meaning you'll have to pay extra if you wish to play this character. As for your backstory, it reads... After crash landing in the city, the alien took one look around and exclaimed, which roughly translates to, I feel really sick from that flight, but I'm going to try to hold in my stomach as to not make a bad first impression. The effort was a failure. Fortunately, the Resistance took pity on the alien, despite the terrible faux pas, and is helping them get back to their home planet. Moving on to your stats, you have your endurance and speed set to an above average of 3, with your other attributes set to a functional nothing due to your near harmless trait. This trait makes it so that all weapons, regardless of their lethality, are unusable to you, and your fists only do 1 damage per punch. This means when selecting traits as you level up, it's best to ignore the ones that affect your DPS output with weapons, such as burning bullets or require you to have a weapon equipped whatsoever like Wall Walloper. This is because not only is your near harmless trait making it impossible for you to get any mileage out of such traits in the first place, but also you can't exactly visit an augmentation booth to remove this trait whatsoever in the first place. This means whether you like it or not, you're not going to be able to get any practical use out of the weapons your opponents drop in the game unless you intend to sell them to the Celomedic for a quick buck. Thankfully, the only other downside attached to this character has ways to be dealt with. This being your vocally challenged trait, making verbal communication impossible with NPCs, meaning hiring extra hands or buying items from shops will be impossible until you either acquire a translator item or remove this trait at an augmentation booth. Personally, I opted to have this trait swapped out for a different negative trait since it's significantly cheaper at an augmentation to do this, and with such a massive negative trait like this, it's never going to be cheap to remove it. Acquiring the money you need to do this, however, should be significantly easier than you might think, since all you really have to do is take all the weapons and items that you can't use due to your near harmless trait like guns, banana peels, or EMP grenades to your local Celomedic, and have it convert all these useless items into currency that can be used on something actually helpful to you. Swapping out your traits at an augmentation booth can be quite risky since you have no control over what you're getting, so it's quite possible for you to get something even worse than what you're swapping out for. For me personally, I was able to luck out and acquire the Shapeshifter's diminutive trait. This trait makes you overall frailer, but also gives you the beneficial trait of allowing you to flush yourself down toilets, a detail that came quite in handy when I had to deal with police lockdowns in the uptown levels. This trait also alters the physical size of your character model. So if you were wondering why my alien character sometimes looks different from yours in gameplay, well, there's your answer. And yes, this does alter your hitbox, making it so that you're harder to hit, since there's less of you to hit in the first place. Speaking of being harder to hit, your next trait is Slippery Target. This trait effectively gives every hostile NPC attacking you the aim of a stormtrooper. This means while you may need your love interest to patch up your shoulder with a medkit if things get really bad, you're unlikely to need to worry about ranged attackers as a whole. You also have the firefighter's starting Fireproof Skin trait, meaning that fire will do less damage to you. This might come in clutch if things go horribly wrong in the industrial zone, but overall it's little more than a footnote, at least on this character specifically. But what isn't a footnote on this character is your bread and butter special ability, Mind Control. This ability is rather straightforward enough to explain how it functions. You fire a green beam of energy from your mind out of your skull and into whoever you want. If you manage to successfully hit the target, you will then have manual control over their movement at the expense of your own character being forced to stay perfectly still. Use this ability to make thralls fight for you or make individuals you want commit suicide via any method available. From train tracks to manhole covers, it's all the same. The choice is yours at this cosmic buffet.
Why are you like this?
A few things to bear in mind when you're going about using this special ability. First and foremost, as previously mentioned, your actual body will be immobile whilst you're using this ability whatsoever. Think of it like Ino's special ability in Naruto. Yeah, she can control people manually with her mind, but when she does, her body is basically unconscious, unable to do anything, and just a sitting duck that needs her teammates to back her up in order not to have things go horribly wrong. And just like her, you are about as useful as this ability. Also bear in mind that many NPCs in this game care deeply about the concept of free will. As a result, if they see you use this ability on other NPCs, they may or may not attack you on sight, and if you take damage whilst using this ability on someone else, you will break hold and that individual will be free from your mind control. This is really bad, especially if you're trying to go for an election victory, since all NPCs that are subjected to your mind control become hostile. This is especially bad for those of you who are trying to go for an election victory, since hostile NPCs effectively count as votes against you. So you want to make sure that everyone that is subjected to your mind control is either killed or subjected to some form of hypnosis in order to ensure that they remain on your side when the election hits. On the subject of improving your electability, I have found for some strange reason that cloning yourself in bulk doesn't actually improve your electability whatsoever when you're playing the alien. My first guess is that this had something to do with the vocally challenged trait, but doing this with the gorilla works just fine, so I honestly have no idea what's happening here. And since we're talking about electability, please bear in mind that actions taken from individuals you're possessing won't count towards you when you're trying to get an election victory. So if you end up mind-controlling the prison guard and having him set the prisoners free, your electability won't go up, because as far as they're concerned, the prison guard set them free, not you. Moving back to your special ability, another thing to keep in mind is that you can actually control multiple individuals at the same time, creating a mass crowd that can be used as a super weapon to smash through walls, kill enemies, or really do anything you want. Just bear in mind that in the event that you manage to hit multiple people with your mind control blast, that all of their movement is linked together. This means that if you have one person go right, you can't have someone else go left. Everyone is moving right or everyone's moving left, but you can't have them go in different directions at the same time. Still, if you end up having a large group of individuals under your control, you can use them to kill each other by having them all punch each other in a corner. You can also do this to try to smash through walls as a way to just break into safes and such. When this happens, I like to pretend that the NPCs you're controlling are using each other as battering rams to smash each other's faces through the mortar, but you might come up with something far more fun and creative than me. The last thing about this ability that I think is worth mentioning is the fact that it has a time limit. Given enough time, the individual you're controlling will break free, and you need to be able to prepare for that. Thankfully, individuals who are freed from your mind control will be inflicted with the dizzy status effect, so you have some time to run away. However, ideally, you'll have found a way to make sure the NPC in question has been killed before that happens. Also, the mind blast that you fire with this special ability can travel through windows, regardless if they're open or broken. So you don't necessarily need to break a window open in order to hit someone inside a building in order to mind control them. I still recommend doing that, however, since it will force them to walk closer to the window, making it easier for you to hit them. But now that we've covered the basics of this character, I think it's time we moved on to your big quest.
We are fighting dreamers.
Your big quest is called Homeward Bound. In this quest, you must disable 3 different vending machines by going up to them and extracting the parts you need in order to complete your overall mission, which, supposedly to the description, is to repair your spaceship. However, regardless if you complete this quest or not, you never get to actually see or pilot the spaceship whatsoever, to much disappointment. Instead, if you manage to complete this big quest once you reach the mayor's village, your mind control blast will have a bigger blast radius, allowing you to hit individuals more consistently with it. Those under the effect of your mind control will have damage reduction, and they will even have the ability to walk and smash through specific types of walls. However, before you get these boons, you do have to actually vandalize various vending machines on each and every floor, and this can be a problem since many NPCs do not take kindly to this act of vandalism and will often turn hostile at the sight of it. This is a massive problem in regards to completing your big quest because once someone turns hostile, they will attack you, and if they will attack you, they will destroy anything you're standing next to, which in this case will be the vending machine you're trying to extract parts from. Meaning, if you're not careful, you can easily end up having the vending machine you intended to extract parts from get destroyed. So before you go about extracting the components you need for this big quest, make sure that you don't have any prying eyes leering in on you. Please bear in mind that once the components you need to repair your spaceship have been extracted from a vending machine, the vending machine in question will no longer be operable, similar to if they've been hit by an EMP blast. This is particularly important to keep in mind when you're playing multiplayer, since many characters will actually rely heavily on certain machines being in operation to some greater or lesser capacity, such as the ATM machine, which is required to be interacted with for certain characters to complete their quest, like with the Slum Dweller, or the ammo dispenser, which is just really good to have for characters that are heavily reliant on guns like the Soldier. So if you're playing in multiplayer, make sure to ask your fellow players if it's okay for you to disable the loadout-o-matic before you extract the ship parts from it, because while you can't get anything from it, the scientist character can get all sorts of goodies from that machine. Due to the procedural random generation of this game, it's very hard to give specific advice for this quest whatsoever, since while ideally you'll end up going for machines like the ATM and loadout-o-matic that you can't really use in any meaningful capacity on this character, it is entirely possible that the most optimal machines for you to try to extract parts from will end up spawning in areas where it's pretty much impossible to do so stealthily, like in front of a police station, or end up being destroyed before you can even find them due to the creeps and bloods starting a fight next to one. This means that you'll want to extract parts from any machine that you can safely extract them from, regardless if you have any intention of using them or not. And depending on the conditions of the floor, you may want to do so the instant you see them, such as if you have a riot disaster or zombie outbreak on a given floor. Naturally, due to the nature of this big quest, you'll want to grab the Nimble Fingers trait if at all possible, since it'll reduce the time you need to actually extract parts from a vending machine, reducing the window of time NPCs have to see and interrupt you. I also recommend traits that improve your overall stealth ability, like Blends In Nicely, in order to make it harder for NPCs to see you extracting the parts in the first place. All in all, I give the alien a gimmick out of 10. You have a powerful special ability in the form of mind control, but you have no plan B for when honest mistakes or RNG screws over plan A and makes it unviable. As a result, whilst I will say this character is powerful, the limits imposed from its near-harmless trait prevent me from thinking of it as an S-tier character whatsoever. But that will be all for now. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one, comment what you want to see me cover in the future. I've been Ian, you have been you, and this has been the Streets of Rogue character guide to the Alien. And stay tuned, the Demolitionist is coming up next.